Everybody, welcome back. So I got my son's Corvette. We're going to put the catch can on it from Improved Racing. I did this on my C7. There's a video up if you want to look at that. And I'm doing it for the Hemi and the Jeep. I got a little ahead of myself, but first thing you got to do is remove your resonator, or your silencer as some people call them. This is where the catch can is going to sit. The kit can bolt on either head if you get the universal kit and you want to make the one end of your lines. I got the kit for the C6. The lines are already assembled, but they work on the passenger side only. They're not long enough to go from the driver's side over, but you just go ahead and get your Sawzall with a fine-tooth blade there. You can cut this resonator off. There's about an inch or so in there. Cut that off. I used a power sander and smoothed down this ring. This ring here was actually part of the resonator. It slid over this. It was the female end, and this air box is the male end. So then, go down to Ace, get you a 1-inch cap. Now there's 1-inch ID and 1-inch OD. I got the 1-inch OD. This one, I bought them both, so I didn't have to go back. This one I'm using for demonstration purposes. I didn't want all this excess in the airbox, so I used some trim tape. Hold it in a pair of channel locks like that. Get your Sawzall, and I ran the blade along the edge of the channel locks to keep it straight, and I cut that off. So you can do this one of two ways. You can push it in like we did, and have the convex side out, the round side, looks like a little golf ball sitting in there. Or you can flip it around, have the concave side in, and this will be flush with that. My son wanted that side out, so I used some PVC glue, slid that in there. It's a tight fit, so I used a Dremel with a round rotary sanding disc, and I lightly sanded it out so I got a tight fit. PVC glue, stuck it in there. After it dries, we'll clean it up, some brake cleaner, and tape the rest of this off and shoot that black. All right, here's the oil catch can kit from Improved Racing. Sorry, it's a little informal. I got too many projects going on. So here's your catch can. This is your safety lock, and then it just pushes and turns to release. And this clips back in there. You have in and an out. These are your nipples for that, in and out. You got a plug that goes on the bottom, only because this base is universal. Before they came out with this quick release kit, you could put a valve, or you could just take the plug out, drain it from the bottom. This is much easier. You got your two lines, the two ends are already made, and then your bracket. This goes under the green cap. This is what's going to support the can. Can's going to bolt onto this bracket, just like that. And then this is your extension, and you can see that it's got radius on both ends. One is just a point like a triangle. That goes in here and it locks, and you have a little bit of wiggle room to adjust. This side with the radius at the tip goes on the edge of the head. There's your bolt onto the head. This has got the cutout on both sides because, again, you can use this on the passenger side or the driver's side head. This is a push pin for the wire loom into this threaded bolt hole, and that's where the extension is going to bolt into on the cooler. Some LSs might have a ground wire here. If that's the case, take it out and move it down here to this hole, and then your catch can will clear all of this. So this is with the bracket installed. You line these up, and this is going to lock on the corner of this head, and then this is going to lock into the plate. And then you put the long bolt. The short bolt is if you don't use the extension. Obviously the extension's needed. It's going to clear this. This is going to be fine. The can's going to sit over here, so this isn't in the way. Next, you're going to hang your can bracket. These have 10mm heads. This has an indentation on the back of the bracket. The brackets, the mounting plate is threaded. The bolts go through the bracket into the mounting plate. The booklet says, I don't know, 120 inch-pounds. It's what, 10 foot-pounds, something like that. Again, you know, it's not a head bolt. You don't need to crank it down, and blue Loctite will keep it from going anywhere. Okay, now we're gonna assemble the can. So my catch can on my C7 Corvette came with a combination of standard and metric fittings, so you got to keep an eye on that while you're doing this. I had a 90-degree on top of mine. These are two straight ones, and they're the same. This is a -6 wrench right there, and it fits them both perfect, so I'm going to use that. The plug at the bottom, this is actually, I believe, a 3/8 wrench for brake bolts, brake caliper bolts on American cars, so this is standard. The short bolt and the long bolt for the mounts are metric, as are the 3 bolts that hold the bracket to that plate. Those are 6mm with 10mm heads. You want to use lubricant on your O-rings for sure. This is air conditioning lubricant. I use it because it's good and I have it, and I don't want to tear the O-rings putting this in. So the first thing I'm going to do is O-ring up the bottom one for the can, for the bottom of the can, and we'll get that installed. I'm going to put the O-ring in the channel in the bottom of the can. I'm going to thread this in. You just want to be careful that it's not pinching the O-ring out. That's why the oil. I believe the booklet has a thread torque recommendation for this, but you know, it's an O-ring seal, so you just need to make sure that that's tight, and the O-ring will keep it from leaking. I'm going to go ahead and get our fittings in. If you're doing, if you're doing a different car, depending upon what kit you get, I mentioned my C7 Corvette had a 90-degree fitting coming out of the top. So if that's the case, if you have something like that, depending upon your application, you got to make sure that you take the lock ring off first, mount your can to the bracket, put the lock ring back on, and then put the fitting in, because this will not go over it. So that one's in. I like to keep an eye on that to make sure it didn't pinch the O-ring out. Tighten those up. And the second one. I'm running out of O-ring lube. And again, just kind of make sure when you're threading that in that it's pushing that O-ring in all the way and it's not pinching it. I believe the torque on this is 16 foot-pounds in the book, and now see, you can get your fitting on there. This has a picture right here, the picture of the head of a wrench. This is 5A. So I was telling you that some things are metric and some things are SAE. This is proof right there that this is 5/8. This is what the pigtail or loop PVC line looks like. You have the nipple coming out of the valley pan. That's going to go to your inside on your can. This goes to the throttle body. This is going to be your outside on the can. These have different clips. The one on my C7 have the kind that you push in sideways and it'll unlock on both ends, just like the kit does. These have this little tab here, and it's got a hook, and you got to get it off the locking hook and push it over to the side. I used a long flathead screwdriver, and then it pulled right off. I ended up unplugging a few things just to get stuff out of my way. You want to be careful. I ended up breaking just a little clip here that holds these two nylon lines together. Everything gets brittle when it's old and hot under here. All right, well, one of the recommendations is to put a little anti-seize on these fine threads before you screw the cap on. It gives additional clamping force in that. It's got a locating pin there. You can clock this to however you want it so that your lines fit. For these kits made for these cars, it tells you where to put it. All right, well, we're about ready to wrap this up. I got the lines. This is the out. Goes to the plastic nipple on the back of the throttle body. That's where your clean air is going to come out of the can into the intake. This is the inlet side. That's coming out of the nipple from the valley pan. Test fit your lines. Luckily, this one was too long. It was in the way, but better too long than too short. I was able to go ahead and trim it down. So what we're going to do now, 5/8 wrench to tighten this cap. I left it loose while I got the lines and set in case I wanted to clock this a different place. So what I got going on here is this inline is holding this wire loom up from touching this pulley, and I'm going to probably zip tie it up to here anyway. This little plastic clip here broke, so you got to be aware. You got to watch stuff like that and make sure that you have everything plugged back in that you unplugged. The outlet line I have routed here because the engine cover is going to go back on, and it's got that plastic edge that comes down right behind here. So if you ran it out here, this would be in the way. I've seen guys just cut the edge of that plastic panel out, but I mean, there's no need for it. It's designed to fit. These have the quick release fittings. You push in the gray button on the side and everything comes off. So we're going to tighten this up, and I don't want to dig it up. This is trim line tape. This is for pinstriping, painting. It's a lot sturdier than masking tape. I'm going to put it on the inside of the wrench instead of on here. So if I got to move the wrench, I can bring the tape with me. And I think maybe just one more. I think that's going to be it. So there you go. Approved racing catch can. It's out of the way of everything. And you're all set. Now this is the finished product. We got the passenger side engine cover on. There's the modification to the air box. We cut the resonator off, put the plug in, painted it black, and the catch can is right there, easily accessible. It's right above one of your outlets of your heater hoses, and it is right over the lower radiator hose, and the overflow hose is kind of in the way too. So if you push the hose underneath it down, it hits the radiator hose and you can't get it out. So you have to push it back towards the block. So pull your locking pin. You can unlock it with two hands. It's not going to fall. And then you just kind of keep some fingers under it, push this hose back, and it'll drop out, and then you bring it out towards the air filter. And then same thing, you just push that back, put your cup up, lock it in, and there you go.